hoş geldiniz. Etkinliğimize endüstrinin yeşil teknoloji adaptasyonu konulu
We
oturumla
will be
devam ediyoruz.
talking about the green adaptation of technology in our session. UNSC Turkish Director Tamer Atabulucu will be our hosting and moderating. For sustainability leadership, we have Aslan Selenk, Patent Effect founder Mustafa Çakır, Griffin Refinery CEO Stuart Campbell, Connect Cranes Sustainability Management Satu Kaivonen are now our guests. Now I give the word to Mr. Atabarut. Thank you very much, Ms. Banu, for your intro. Dear speakers and contributors and listeners that are with us throughout the program, and I wish to welcome you all to the second Turkish Circular Economy Week, and I'm really grateful to be here to be hosting it. And in our previous sessions, we talked about different aspects of circular economy on different perspectives and platforms. When you look at things, the terminology of it, the situation, the current developments, especially the structuring of Turkey with structural and organizational basis. On different sessions, we were informed in detail. Our session, we will be talking about the industrial change, the conversion into green, and the relations in between the greens and the industry. And we have guests, both domestic and international. And without further ado, we shall continue. And in this wonderful week, we hope to raise awareness and get informed compared to previous years. And we now realize that we consume more natural resources faster than ever with indexes and data shown. And some of the most important data we can see that in 2021, in July, natural resources almost came to depletion by calculation. The pandemic has slightly slowed things down, but its importance still rise regardless. And of course, our approach is based on circular economy and in its relations. However, its implementation to sector will change from sector to sector. And I wish to give the word to Ms. Aslıhan. She's from Borusan Holding, and she's in the strategy and sustainability department. I'll forward her my first question. Borusan Holding, on many aspects, be it on Turkey or internationally, works on many different fields. We can see it on steel industry, energy production, distribution, and other sectors alike. And in terms of circular economy strategy, what can you say on behalf of Borusan and Borusan's implementation? Of course, I'd be glad to, Mr. Tamer. I have a small presentation here, and it is something with examples from Borusan's side in terms of adaptation and implementation, hopefully to broaden our horizons as a whole. In Borusan Holding Group Şirkets, I'm in strategy and sustainability department, and Borusan Circular Economy contribution has many actions taken and many projects underway, which I wish to touch upon so we can see some examples, solid, concrete examples on the ground. And for it, I believe it will slightly raise awareness for holdings. And we, in our holding within companies, we try to coordinate things. Borusan Holding with group companies for sustainability work, we put the output into a framework and to cover climate, people, and innovation, which we call I3. And many companies within the holding, in terms of sustainability and environment protection, set their own priorities and set goals long term in a general, broad sense. Within the holding, We have goals mid and long term, such as 2030 and 2050. And towards it, we conduct activities to meet the new demands and needs. Under innovation, we focus on carbon free work models and production reduction of carbons. And strategic innovation for sustainability are some of our headlines. Working with all sides in cooperatively, we get inspiration from their smaller steps taken to set bigger steps as a holding in its entirety. And in circular economy side of things, we also focus on the climate with steps taken to deal with the climate crisis. And of course, it is not a complete concrete model, but our priorities now focus on circular economy and reducing our carbon footprint. And our operational sectors have a high carbon density in some levels, and we focus on models that will reduce the carbon emission on those. With a multi-company structure in a holding as this, to have the same goal, we have a administration system. And to explain it briefly, we have subgroups that focus on the same goal, and circular economy is one such goal. Many companies with different operational conditions and other branches should focus on the same objectives with action plans set. Even in some ideas, we see where other sectors, unrelated sectors, sometimes join us and cooperate with ideas and implementations. So, for circular economy subcommittee actions, ever since its establishment, we have some, and in terms of it, we focus on supply chain related things and using renewable energies, reducing carbon footprints, focusing on recyclable materials and utilizing recycling more, and to have the product and or the service become long lasting with repairs, maintenance, reuse, and of course technology and innovation. And the life cycle of a product is always involved. Renewable energies, reuse and recycle of energy with waste management hand in hand are some of the main other topics of our committee. And for efficiency, we focus on every field and make it a topic of discussion in the committees with actions taken. With this perspective, this committee realized the current situation with measurements done. We measured many things on many levels and raised awareness in regards to it, such as our evaluation of how circular we are, how do we manage our waste, what do we buy, and how much of them can be reused or recycled. And we tried to draw a clear picture in regards to that. So we developed a project pool to have priorities set and how to implement them rapidly. And on this level, for raising awareness, we also started activities in the companies and also in the holding with other companies involved. And for this, we've seen things that companies in this regard have a lot of potential for recycle with materials such as plastic, paper, and wood. And also in industries such as metal, we see waste that can be recycled or reused. And with this project pool, we tried to develop things. And this is the area which I'll go into detail. As we discussed these amongst ourselves, we've seen new business models that came to be. And to touch on some of them, I could observe this one the closest. In Borusan, we have a CRC component revision center where materials and parts can be reused and repurposed. We also have an exchange in there and also departments changed. It's a two-sided organization where heavy industrial parts are reutilized or repaired, and other components, instead of removed for junk, we have a department to reutilize them in other ways. And within the original standards, they get renewed and maintained to contribute to the circular economy. And here, when you look at things in the years, we've seen many operations done, and 70% of them was done over parts that were considered damaged. And instead of marking it as junk, we renewed it, and 30% of it were on removed parts, were parts that are not in usable condition. And instead of repurposing the machine, we repurposed the materials in it. And for this, the added value aside, this has been answer to worries about budgeting. And on the green trend side of things, we've seen a double in amount of customers that wished for this. And we've seen this as a level raised in awareness. So business and exchange should continue, and in the future, with other digital aspects included, and awareness raised even more for service side of things. And we hope to continue our efforts and increase and implement more capabilities. And we combine this and implement to our base practice models with damage evaluation centers combined in it, with previous opportunities and the potential solutions combined. And for circular economy contribution, our businesses and ideas have to merge with this economic model. With smart opportunity management, we have to increase our efficiency, and the transformation in business model in value chain has seen its importance raise. We can also talk about things such as Borusan and the production from glass bottles to overalls. And in other companies, we've seen the structural change, and in terms of production, used materials and supplies, we've seen the awareness implement them too. And we've seen also different things that are up for evaluation and discussion in such a time, from moisture towers to rain storage units. We discussed what can be done, and utilizing different locations for watering systems, and in vehicle cleaning, we utilized recycling. On main buildings, the floods and reservoirs for water have been adjusted and updated. We used boreum oil, and its recycle and its cleaning procedures utilizing recycled water and other supplements. I'm talking about tons of material, chemicals that are recycled or reused. Perhaps in the old traditional times, the costly or expensive and certainly unrenewable materials now are being implemented again. And as all companies, we have risen awareness in supply and demand chain, and in this, the stakeholders' cooperation was incentivized with deliveries to self-sustainability value, implemented waste management, contributing players on the market. We wish to expand even more in regards to this, and everyone that joins this brings their environment and community with them. And projects implementation based on circular economy grows with joint actions, with many R&D work done and technical actions implemented, and much more to be implemented. And at the same time, the value gained from here can also be transferred to social programs that can also supply and meet the needs of society surrounding. And I believe this model can be implemented at the nucleus of the communities. And in the company's work, we've also done synchronized work in many other companies, even though not here in our circular economy model in Borusan's CEO, Mr. Özgür would also share things. And I have some quotations from him, which I wish to express in here briefly. Excuse me.
Merhaba herkese.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Turkey Circular Economy Week panel, and I'm grateful to address to hundreds and thousands of people. Turkey, as much as the world needs to refreshen, and the circular economy is a recent topic, but an important topic. Businesses talk about this in their agendas. They make it the top priority more and more. And I wish to express my side of things in Borusan Group. We are part of Borusan Group with a history of 80 and more years. It's an industrial group. And our business, our work with machinery and representatives, we do this in 6 countries. And the dynamics of it focus on countries they work in and on maintenance offer services. This sector is very reactive. In our journey in this sector, we've taken the role of leadership on a global scale for a conversion, and we've seen that the change with each step has been for the better, especially in terms of environment and sustainability. In Borusan, sustainability perspective in Borusan CAT especially is with the I3 project, the human, the innovation, and the climate. And in our journey, especially innovation and this circular contribution to the economy has seen incredible levels. Last year, thanks to our efforts, 65 million tons of direct and $640 million of indirect gain was achieved in our businesses. And its connection to circular models and the sustainability is not up for discussion. With generators, business machinery, and everything, we've seen their implementation from dams to hospitals to bridges to state hospitals to data centers, janitors. We've seen our customers, regardless of where they come from, want their work not to be hindered and to receive the fastest maintenance and reaction from the companies. We said, can this be improved? And for this, we looked at two things to look at produced materials, designs, second, third, or fourth circle of operation in investment, which contributes to the circular economy model. Old machinery with panels or fans or everything else, we take them to our revision centers, renew them, and give them another operational circle. Turkey, Azerbaijan, Georgia, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, and Russia has seen these centers established. We do this for a decade now, and we've seen development accelerate in the last 5 years, especially in Turkey, with advanced tools, components, and with generators. We've seen them become operational for the second, third, or fourth time. In automotive and other sectors, we do we did these already beforehand and increased their life cycle. This has been done globally before many times, but we had the pleasure and the success of copying that to our industry. At Borusan Cat, another important thing we did was to have a predictable maintenance schedule where digital technologies played a part with Internet of Things developing rapidly. We worked on an AI, and the bilyeci AI predicted when maintenance would be needed, and they can predict when errors would take, and we've seen a success rate in predictions of 95%. So with this, we managed to take precautions before errors happened with faster and cheaper maintenance done because working components in engines or gearboxes can be fixed before they break apart. And with that is cheaper. And maintenance costs with such predictability become cheaper and more efficient. With $65 million of indirect and $640 million of indirect contribution, we see its value shine in the circular economic approach. In our sector, this has become big news, and we became the lead on the global scale where other companies and other sectors coming up to cooperate. Of course, there's a human aspect to this too, because sustainability relies on humanity too. And for it, we need to have innovative approaches and views, raise people and train them. And in our personal lives, reuse or lessening waste has become our innovative approach in business, but should be the awareness of people in its entirety. And we share our knowledge with everyone that cooperates with us. We all need to change for the world. We all need a better world. And Confucius has said that instead of complaining about the dark, we should light a candle. And as Borusan Cat, we wish to light a candle with all of our strength and capability. Hopefully, with all of our efforts, our country and our world will become a better place. As we see behind me, we create solutions for a better world and for a better future. I wish to I wish you a wonderful week and a wonderful panel. Stay safe. And for now, I can answer your questions with summaries after two presentations. Hopefully, this has answered your questions. Thank you, Ms. Aslahan, especially for Borusan Holding with many companies and as a group. Your approach has been put forward and it was most interesting, especially in the context of Borusan Cat. And we've seen the business models of circular economy implemented and used on the field, which results in gains. And even to become a lead in the global scale as we've just listened. Thank you. If we have time or if we get more questions, we'll come back to you. Thank you. And now, dear attendees, now we'll continue with our second panelist is someone from international scale. Satu Kaivonen will be talking about sustainability as it is her work already, and she will be sharing her experiences. We wish to thank her for being here. My question towards her in Turkish will be, I believe there's an interpreter already translating what I'm saying. And for sustainability, we know your company does a lot. And even we had the pleasure of talking bilaterally in this regard. In your circular focused work, and even a step further from that, can you briefly touch upon your up-to-date work and sustainability as a value is a thing we figured in Finland. Could you also describe this?
Sure. Thank you so much, Mr. Atabarut. So I will start with my presentation and I will come back to your question later. Please let me know if you can see my screen.
Evet, görüyoruz şu anda.
Great.
We can see your presentation.
Thank you. Good. So thank you so much for having me here. My name is Satu Kaivonen, and I represent Konecranes, which is a big technology company in Finland. And I'm here today talking about bending the curve, meaning how do you actually break the cycle from moving towards the circular economy from the linear economy. And I will be touching upon some green technology solutions that we use, some strategic values that we want to share with this group, and also come back to some of the upcoming regulations on circular economy. Very, very briefly, for those that do not know Konecranes, so we're a technology company from Finland. We manufacture lifting devices, material handling devices. We're active in 50 countries. We work globally. Our main market area is in Europe. We have 3 business areas, so the industrial equipment, service, and ports solutions. Each of these represent almost the same size in revenue. We have almost 70,000 employees around the world, and our sales is about 3.2 billion annually. And very, very briefly about the products, so you understand the context of this presentation, is that we manufacture industrial cranes presented on the left-hand side. We do a lot of services, different kinds in the middle picture, and we also manufacture different kinds and sizes of ports equipment used in ports and terminals. And we have a lot of digital solutions to support us along the way in each of these business areas. But the topic of today is really how are we moving forward, and like Mr. Atabarut said, that how do we see circularity and sustainability nowadays. We started our science-based target project last year, so we've actually have a pretty good understanding about our carbon footprint in total. And as you can see, the large majority comes from diesel operating equipment. So the use of sold products, as you will. And that's why we need to focus especially there, without forgetting the other scopes as well, but really focus on the equipment and electrification and offering low carbon solutions for our customers. So this is kind of where we start from. Sorry about the very busy slide, but we have 5 themes in our sustainability roadmap, and eco-optimized offering and circularity is one out of the 5. Our customer commitment is wrapped around that we want to support our customers in reaching their low carbon targets with our solutions, because we have the technology and the solutions to enable that. We do that by accelerating circularity at all levels of operations. We think about how can we implement this into different processes, product design along the whole value chain. We're definitely very much concentrating on substituting existing technology with lower emission alternatives. I will speak about that a little bit later. And then, like I said, we're really driving our very fresh science-based targets, which was validated at the beginning of this year. So reducing these scope 1, 2, and 3 emissions by 50% by 2030. And this really much touches upon our whole portfolio. If we think about product design, we utilize smart design principles, really thinking about maintainability, upgradability, durability, so making products that lasts for a long time. So the life cycle of our products are decades. And really thinking about the materials, their recyclability, and of course, energy efficiency. Extending product life cycles, like said in the previous Borusan presentation, we also do our best to extend the product life cycles with different kind of service concepts. There are so many ways to do this. And we also have digital solutions supporting us. So collecting data about the usage and estimating and predicting the right time to repair, and having all the spare parts ready and serving the customers so there's no extra downtime for that product. And with that data, we can really optimize all the movements of people and the logistics of spare parts, and then kind of save materials, save resources, and save logistics and emissions at the end. The retrofitting and modernizing these lifting devices is a big thing and a big business as well. It actually saves hundreds hundreds of tons of steel during their whole lifespan, because you can use the steel structure and just update the technology part and change worn out spare parts. We've worked a lot on the eco-optimized offering roadmap. So how do we do this, and how do we really reach the leadership in this area in 2030 at the latest? We have different ideas there, and as we do not have any international standards or concepts about what is an energy efficient or a sustainable crane or a hoist look like, so we want to actually be the ones to set those criteria ourselves. Still looking into the EU taxonomy and other kind of regulations on that side. So really taking the best benchmarks possible. And we have external targets as well about this area. But moving forward. So the green technologies, which was one topic for today, is that we really are doing our best to utilize the very most prominent technologies. And that is because we really want to focus on providing these low carbon solutions, understanding customer needs, and extending the product life cycles, which is the basis of circular economy. And we have a very vast portfolio of different kind of devices for material flow, and also servicing and digital solutions to do this efficiently. When we see, like I said, we really need to focus on the ports equipment, because they are mostly used by diesel. That's why we have most different kind of technology options for our customers on the ports side. So we have available for hybrids, battery electric devices. We can use biofuel, HVO 100, and these equipment can be used also with full electric, so by cable reels or bus bars. And taking an example in this picture, the RTG, so the rubber tired gantry crane on the right-hand side, if the customer wants to invest in a hybrid or an electric RTG, they can actually save 60 to 80% emissions during the whole life cycle. So that's a huge improvement, and a huge thing when we think about the climate emergency, as well as for circular economy, because we can also extend the life cycle of this product, and we can transform this into full electricity if the customer goes to buy a hybrid at this stage. And then the retrofits, like said, we have scientific background. We did a large research in the US last year. So there's scientific proof that there is this much emission savings for this technology. Very briefly about that. And then kind of digging a bit deeper into circular economy. So we all know about this, but it really comes down to the inefficiencies in the value chain nowadays. So there's so much unsustainable material still going around. There are underutilized capacities, so factories are not operating with full capacity. And there's a lot of premature product lives, especially when you think about the consumer products. And definitely there is so much wasted end of life value at the moment, so much more that can be done. And when you think about the whole value chain, there is so much opportunities and possibilities to connect with the customer and bring them value along the whole value chain. So this is where we start. And then when we think about the other kind of drivers that we see in our field, which was also mentioned in the Borusan example. So of course, the climate emergency, but the possibility for us to enable these emission reductions for our customers, thinking about their needs, providing that kind of technology that makes sense to them and is reliable. We can see that there are changes in new taxation models, so it becomes more profitable for the customer to service equipment rather than buying completely new ones. There's a lot of interest and changes in the ownership structures of these large, a bit more expensive machinery. And there is really changes in how we value raw materials. And I think Borusan Cat was a fantastic example of that. Then we can really see that there's a regulatory push for decarbonizing, especially ports, which uses a lot of diesel nowadays. They have a lot of incentives in place to move that kind of fleet into more energy efficient and kind of cutting the carbon emissions from that equipment fleet. Resource scarcity, we all know about the component shortages, and that there are rare earth metals that their prices are skyrocketing. And legislation and regulation changes coming at late this month. So we need to be disclosing more and more data about circularity. How is this taken into account in the end of life of the product? And also this EU taxonomy, like which of your products in your portfolio is so-called low carbon. So these are some elements for us. And here is very a simplified picture about how we actually use circularity in our operations today. Maintenance is the key to extend the life cycle, like said in the previous Borusan presentation, really utilizing the data to predict the failure, optimizing all of the activities, having the ability to do modernizations and retrofits for the customer. And something that's also very crucial is the spare part availability. You cannot use an equipment if there is no more spare parts available. So we also take a good care of that. We also offer used equipment in our website. So reselling these used equipment when there's life cycle left, we can do the services, and then those equipment are good to go to the next customer. We have a rental concept ongoing, so you can lease an industrial crane. And then we also use leasing models in our agile and material handling systems. So the service is included and you pay a monthly fee. We do also remanufacturing, maybe not in the scale of Cat Borusan, but we do that as well. So remanufacturing kind of the key components and key elements in a crane. So motors, drives, and other kind of spare part remanufacturing. We also do this reverse engineering as there are obsolete crane parts. So crane parts that are no longer available, so we can do that and give the extra lifespan for those equipment as well. And like I said, we use smart design principles. We really think about the maintainability, durability. How can we design this product that it is easy to disassemble and the materials can be recycled? This is really how we work today. And like I said, the digital platforms like TrueConnect support us along the way, giving more value to the customer. And very finally, on my final slide is just like a few notes on what's coming next in circularity. So the EU taxonomy is releasing technical screening criteria for circular economy that will be available at the end of March. And I know that at least our products will probably go under that as well. So urging you to take a look. There's also the Sustainable Product Initiative that will be launched, a regulation, brand new one, kind of will expand the Eco-Design Directive to cover also other areas and other products rather than just the energy-related products. So the aim of that is to make the products available on the EU market more sustainable. And the element that will be used in the Sustainable Product Initiative will be called the Digital Product Passport. So that will be the tool where companies need to explain and give away data about the sustainability and the material composition of their products to their stakeholders in an efficient way. But we know more at the end of March when the information will be released. But this is all from me. Thank you very much. Any questions?
Evet Bayan Aslı, çok teşekkür ederiz.
Thank you very much for your comprehensive presentation. And by the end of the panel, we will be accepting the questions from listeners and we'll be giving the questions to you. On business level, your work was really impressive to listen to. And with a country that is in really close talks in terms of trade with our nation, in terms of conversions and steps taken on the EU level, we also had the wonderful opportunity of listening to you. Thank you.
Thank you.
And now we will move on to our next panelists. And again, by the end of all presentations, I will be distributing the questions I get from the chat. And if listeners have any questions they have in their mind, you can type them in the question box you can see. And now our third panelist is Mr. Mustafa Çakır is the founder of Patent Effect, and currently he is a hard worker in this area in terms of patents and technology transfers, especially in terms of circularity and sustainability in the normal understanding, in the normal production, and the work we do is not compatible with sustainability. So we need technological developments and advancements with many examples we've seen thus far. And this needs change. So green technology is my question, and especially in terms of patents. And in this regard, you are a close follower and up-to-date person. So I would be glad to listen to you. Thank you, Mr. Tamer. Of course, today's panelists and speakers are really valuable, and I will be focusing on developing technology and monitoring technologies with statistics of the patents, especially in terms of green industrial applications and the technology transfer mechanism, the knowledge exchange mechanisms, which are really the key component of the whole ordeal. Of course, with the globalization, all kinds of production has increased. People can access to more food and there's more energy consumed, etc. Is not sustainable without developing new technologies, producing more energy, having better filters, producing more, following technology, and much more has to rise up at the same time, simultaneously. We talk about innovation, developing new technologies in sectors and in classical linear understanding, it has to be put on a scale compared between nations, companies even, and global innovation index has parameters and metrics for this, for nations and companies alike, universities with patent applications and approval of patents. It is a significant display for green technology ecosystem and what is happening in this system, who is developing what, and how are they adapting green technologies with sub-branches of approaches. And we have one such metric with patent data on national scale, on business scale, startup scales, and on university scales. We see that as an important metric. University green technology, you can see a second phase, which is the technology transfer, knowledge exchange, where startups and universities develop green technologies, which emerges the question of, can this be implemented in the industry with added value? And transfer mechanisms play their part for growth and sustainability in the industry. Green technology patent approaches are important. There's 8.2 million green technology category patent applications. 8.2 million is a good number for patents, but more than the number, we should focus on what is being done with Paris Climate Agreement and the rising trend in this and developing new technologies and applying patent for those. We should evaluate those. Is it on the rise or on the fall? And why? Now, 8.2 million patents, that's a good number. 43% of it is based on lessening the impact and adapting into climate change with technologies. Substantial amount, almost 50% of patents focus on climate change impacts alone, and half of them focus on lessening greenhouse gases. 1.5 million patents of technologies focus on lessening greenhouse gas emissions. And being aware of these and on these fields, if you are someone who wants to take action and develop something in this regard, it is good to know who and what is being patented. And of course, for added value aspect for the second side of things, we'll also touch upon that. On global, with 8.2 million patents, sure, but are these rising? Is the global conjuncture is increasing? Are we developing new technologies? And yes, we do. In the last 5 years, in terms of green technologies, patent applications have risen 98%. Wonderful, isn't it? With new technologies developed on global ecosystem, we see a substantial increase, 21% in last year alone, with global patent approaches. And from 20% from 2021 to now is 21%. We see a little bit of stagnation on applications of patent, but we've seen a 20% increase on greenhouse technologies. And it seems like a wonderful development. Sadly, not the same for Turkey. A global rise of 90% globally does not reflect Turkey, as Turkey has 15% increase on such patent applications, with TÜBİTAK and other policymakers and players, of course, have incentives, sure, but there should be more actions taken, more projects done, more patents applied. And we look at subsectors with 8.2, we've said half of them was about climate change and half of them was about greenhouse gases. And on third spot, we have industrial technologies to lessen the impact with almost 1 million patents in production of things where procedures and systems used especially focus on lessening the climate change impact on production. Also, we see transportation and lessening its impact on climate change with optimization, battery systems, and much more on the fourth. On fifth, we see construction and home appliances, where in home appliances technologies and their development and make them fit to in accordance with the climate change. And under it, water filtering. And in terms of numbers, on 6 spots, we see in amount of patents, of course, the sixth is about filtering. In the last 5 years, if we look at the jumps in graphics, we'll get curious. In global scale, what technology area was the most focused on? What was the most invested in? Of course, patent applications and the companies and universities and startups do all applications with their investment decisions. And in patents, strategic cooperations have tangible assets with a financial asset. And so spending done on patent is seen as an investment. So on global scale, in the last 5 years, in regards to application or investment, its declaration matters. So software, we say software is eating the world, sure. And in green technologies in the last 5 years, we see the increase. And data processing, patent applications rise on with 124%. Let's give some examples in this regard. You know, data processing and green technologies. What about optimizing energy consumption? Supply chain optimization software. Applications based on agricultural output, machine learning, and AI can shape and help us shape data processing and develop easier green technologies. In this regard, of course, in transportation, we focus on lessening greenhouse gas emissions. And of course, we've seen 120% increase on the global in the last 5 years. After it, electrical charging stations. Of course, it's a category that's in green technologies. And we see technologies based on them with software, etc., with 150% increase in patents. Electromobility technologies, charging system patents with batteries, capacitors, and other types of technologies included in it with an increase of 140%. And after it, water technologies, efficient usage of waters and related technologies, such as filtering or supplying, distributing waters with new technologies. In this group, on global scale, we see these technologies in numbers. Some of them take the forefront. And on the last 5 years, what the world has been focusing on in terms of technologies, we see important data emerging here and trends set. And in order to not get lost in trends and to serve what is being put forward, it is important to develop technologies. Of course, companies cannot develop every technology. Innovation is a recent topic, to be frank. I believe in Japan, there was a conference. The innovation CEO said in the future decade, 85% with open innovation, we will develop 85% of our product catalog differently. That's saying that I'll adapt technologies as R&D and in-house R&D will shrink. So this aspect, this knowledge exchange and technology transfers concept change as its own from universities, startups, SMEs, and large corporations in terms of adaptation start to cooperate more. Of course, green technologies adaptation can use this mechanism. Patent appliance, of course, are companies, thousands of it, but also universities in thousands and startups in thousands. So technology preparedness level might be low, but they can solve problems of the industry, optimizing, lessening emissions, having efficient agricultural solutions, and other technologies. And in this regard, these green technologies adaptation base themselves on technology transfer systems, having contracts for joint R&Ds between a company and a university, or a university's patent if for sustainable growth, a company can benefit from it having license agreements with the university and adapting technologies, having a joint mechanism in place. So globally, decision makers now focus on technology transfer on green technologies and how to accelerate these. Hopefully, we will see this more and more in Turkey eventually because 8.2 million patents. And in terms of green technology from Turkey, I mean, sadly, we have 8,400 patents, 8.2 million globally, 8,400 Turkish. And this numbers increase and implementation of technologies for sustainable goal and to empower users, perhaps other appliance companies internationally can be used for cooperation and utilization. That is what I had to share in terms of data and approaches. We work on patent, of course, for the grand picture. And we talked about startups, universities, companies, and the interconnectedness of it when it comes to green technology and the mentality of change with open innovation and its added value. Thank you for listening. Thank you, Mr. Mustafa. You really helped us see the grand picture, see how technology evolves, where knowledge flows globally and in Turkey, both. and it was most satisfactory of data. And of course, as universities, we all have steps taken, but there's much more to be done, especially in cooperation, as you've said. Open innovation is something we should do where unity matters the most, where universities, companies, R&D organizations, or new startups perhaps may have answers for questions we have on our own sides. So thank you for the info.
Bu noktada
I wish to add one more thing. In these approaches to accelerate them, the Green Grow initiative with Tidar, we have a project, and Tidar companies' technology efficiency has been measured, and to accelerate their adaptation, we match them with startups that may help them adapting into green technology. Hopefully, our technology will start soon from family holdings. Thank you. Now, I wish to give the word to our last panelist, but before that, I wish to introduce him to you. He is Stuart Campbell from Griffin. He is the CEO. And in terms of this, as to what he does, he will be giving details himself. And from what I see from the internet and some small research I did, I also wish to share his fields because he, in terms of waste management integration, I also work in that field. And on their website, there's a statement which caught my attention. It is the quote of let's not waste waste, which had my attention because back in my university years, my teacher, rest in peace, had said that solid waste, when defined, said they are desired solid resources that no one knows who wants. So, and seeing that quote similar to that on their website had my attention. So, I wish to say companies in terms of circular economies, they located as a added value with many applications. So, as I give the word to Mr. Stewart for what they do, and I'll ask him to present about what work he does, and I would be glad to listen to him closely. Mr. Stewart, you have the word.
Thank you, Tamar. Can you hear me okay? And can you see my screen okay?
Yes.
Good, excellent. No, it's a privilege and it's an honor to be speaking today, and it's been great to listen to the other panelists, and I'll try and sort of keep the levels up and keep the interest up. So, just a quick introduction to Griffin. We're a small Finnish company, but we've got offices in Helsinki where we're headquartered, but also in London and Dubai. Particularly Dubai office is where we're sort of focusing on a lot of projects at the moment. And we're all about we're a Finnish circular economy company with the objective of producing value from waste, as Tamar has touched upon there. You can see our sort of vision statement there and our mission statements, but we're very much also about partnership. We're a small company, but the way we deliver is working with other organizations and really sort of pulling in the best of all of those partners to deliver on the projects. We've got three focuses in the company, 3 business units. And today I will touch on the fuel from waste and the plastics recycling as particularly relevant, I think, to sort of the Turkish economy and sort of opportunities within Turkey. Our third business area is organic circularity. That's effectively composting. So we have our own drum technology there for composting. But as I say, let's focus today on fuel from waste and then plastics recycling. So fuel from waste, particularly here, we're talking about refuse-derived fuel. And we see this as very relevant to the Turkish cement sector. And obviously cement is a sector that's really important to our growth, our economic growth. But I think we're all aware that its carbon impact is massive, and therefore we really need to be thinking about how we can make changes there to improve things. So we see refuse-derived fuel as an important part of the mix to reduce carbon. It's part of the jigsaw to reduce carbon and greenhouse gas emissions, because through the use of refuse-derived fuel, we can replace fossil fuels, particularly often the coal that's burned by the cement sector. We can reduce the amount of waste going to landfill as well. And we can reduce the amount of carbon and greenhouse gas emissions. But it's really important that when developing these refuse-derived fuel projects, we take a long-term view. We've got to understand, well, actually, how's that waste composition? If we're using this waste, municipal waste, commercial and industrial waste, how's that going to change over the next 15 to 20 years, so the life of this project? Because it's really important that we keep focused on that hierarchy of waste. We really want to be trying to maximize the amount of waste that's going into recycling and is used for proper circularity. So what's going to happen with those that composition and those materials going forward? Because we want to be basically preventing reusing and recycling as much as possible. So that's a really important question that we need to ask ourselves when developing these projects and doing this sort of the technical and the economic modeling here. And that will be driven by regulations, but also increasingly it's driven by consumers who are spending their money in the areas that they think are going to have the best sort of green impact. And that will influence consumer behavior, and it'll influence products and services and packaging, and basically how much waste is produced and the market pricing of waste. So we need to basically design all of this into our projects, and it's really, really important we think about that. And then cement plants, it's not just refuse-derived fuel. They need to be thinking of all these different options to reduce their energy use and reduce emissions. As I say, RDF is just one part of the jigsaw. So, for example, sort of looking at the use of LC3 as a way to reduce clinker and cement, that's effectively sort of options to increase the amount of clay, because it certainly has a positive effect from an environmental point of view. They need to explore what other alternative waste fuels are available to them. And then on-site energy use. I mean, it's obvious, but if they've got lots of land available, then surely they need to be looking at sort of on-site generation and such like. So, Griffin, in terms of RDF, we can play a number of roles, particularly we're a project developer, but we can take technical lead, project design and technical design, and we can provide ongoing operation and maintenance support, EPC services, and we can also be an investor as well. And I think one of the advantages that we've got is we really understand the cement sector, because it's those customers who are going to be using the fuel, so it's got to be right for them. And over the years, we want them to be able to increase their substitution rates and reduce their coal use and fossil fuel use. So that's where it's really important that this fuel works for them, and we understand that, and we've got the experience to help them. We'll help them develop the business cases and commercial cases. And, we can also, we're technology agnostic in this area, so we'll introduce the best suppliers and the best technology for that particular project. But you can see the final bullet point there on this slide. I think that's the important one. And this is statistics from our project in the United Arab Emirates. So for every 1.5 tons of refuse-derived fuel used, that will substitute for 1 ton of coal, and that will deliver 1 ton of carbon savings. So these are big numbers that we're talking about here. And also at the same time, we're reducing the amount of waste that is going to landfill. So there's really good benefits here. Briefly, just point to a reference project here in this sector. We're working with partners in the United Arab Emirates, B6, which is the Belgium headquartered construction company and tech group, which is owned by the local sheikh there, the Sheikh of Ajman. And this is a 15-year government concession from the Ministry of Climate Change and Energy, part funded by MOPA, which is the Ministry of Presidential Affairs. So it's an RDF plant. This is built. It's in sort of commercial ramp-up phase at the moment. The planned capacity would be 1,000 tons a day. We actually think sort of now we've got our hands on the waste and we're ramping up and such like that. Actually, we'll probably be able to process 1,300 tons of waste a day. And you can see the number down the bottom there, the replacement of fossil fuels. So it's in the Northern Emirates and in Al Quwain, and it's surrounded by all of the cement plants up there in the United Arab Emirates. And once this plant is at full capacity, we're going to be saving 250,000 tons of CO2 a year. So it's a really important project, and it's the first what we would call sort of professional industrial scale waste management plant in the UAE. There's more coming, but we're very proud we're out there and we're the first, and we're doing it in conjunction with the government out there in the UAE at the federal level, not just at sort of the individual emirate level. Okay, so that's refuse-derived fuel. Second area of focus today is plastics recycling. So in terms of sort of Turkey, I think it's really important, and I'm sure a lot of the audience are aware of this, but it's really important to sort of understand what's happening in the EU as well on your borders, because the markets are closely related, and really it's the EU directives around packaging and waste standards that are driving the change, both within the EU, but also for any companies that are looking to do business within the EU, you have to be meeting these regulations. And there's really challenging recycling targets, which I think are fantastic, and it's really sort of challenging all participants to up their game. And you can see there, sort of in the second bullet point, that 55% of plastic packaging material is going to need to be recycled by 2030, and that will step up aggressively after that as well. So we're looking at sort of targets going up to 75–80% in the future. And what does that mean for companies that are putting products into the market, the big brands, the retail companies and such like? Well, they have to take responsibility for that packaging waste that goes into circulation. So they need to they're going to need help dealing with this legislation. It differs from country to country in the EU, but it's very relevant for, as I say, for any Turkish companies looking to sort of put their products into the EU. They're going to have to abide by this legislation as well. So EU countries, including Finland, a lot of them are taking a market-driven approach here, which is called Extended Producer Responsibility, or EPR. And that's all about sort of meeting the legal requirements. You've got to understand what you're doing. So you need to basically capture that data, report on it, and the companies aren't going to do it themselves. So they're actually going to sort of look for companies to provide these EPR services to them through sort of licensing, handling, and reporting to make sure that they are meeting these increased recycling rates. But again, a lot of the large brands and retailers, they're very aware that their customers are demanding that they go further and faster than the legislation. So we're talking to a lot of the very big brands who are really sort of keen and saying, fine, 20, 30, 55%. No, we want to be hitting those numbers years and years earlier. And they're getting pressure from their customers who are demanding this of them. And they're very aware of that. But EPR is great because what it's going to do is deliver increased material flows and volumes, and it's all going to be identified and tracked. But what it's going to mean is it's going to lead to sort of an urgent need to upgrade the infrastructure for basically the plastic sorting plants, and then the recycling plants. So it's we're excited about this because as I say, it's a market-driven approach, but it's going to lead to real changes on the ground, and that circularity of materials and getting them back into the production flow is really important. So I've got a visual here that explains it, and just to point out that logo on the left, Finloop. I'll talk about that on the next slide, but that's the joint venture that we've got running in Finland around enhanced producer responsibility. But I'll take you around this circle, starting at the top. So basically manufacture. So plastics at the moment are manufactured. Those materials are going to the brand owners and the retailers to use as packaging in their products. So they're going out for distribution. They eventually get to the consumer who's using that material. Now, if there can be a nice sort of loop and that material is reused, a lot of us have got our favorite sort of plastic bottles now that we use every day. We put it in the dishwasher and we get it out again, and fantastic. We can go through that sort of circle. But unfortunately, a lot of that plastic material goes into sort of the waste system. So it needs to be collected in recovery. And at that point, unfortunately, a lot of it shoots off at the moment. Just it's dumped. It's put to landfill or burnt. So that's we're already losing a lot of that waste. That waste plastic at that time. But we need that investment into the sorting plants now, so we can recover that material. Now, again, we haven't got the investment into the recycling, mechanical or chemical yet, the capacity in those plants to recover all of that material. So once we've got the sorting plants, some of that material will go for energy recovery. It's not ideal because it's not circular, but at least we're recovering some goodness from it. And that's where sort of previously when I talked about refuse-derived fuel, ultimately long-term, it's more of a stepping stone technology, but it's really useful for the next 15, 20, 30 years. But once that investment comes through into the recycling, that capacity is there. We'll be able to get more of this material and it comes back into the sourcing and back to the manufacturers for reuse and conversion into the materials of the future. And we can reduce the amount of fossil resources that you see going in at the top left of the picture into the process. So hopefully sort of that circle makes sense. So our solutions, Griffin, we're looking to develop these sorting and recycling infrastructure projects going forward, and allow the manufacturers and the brands and the retailers to therefore access this recycled material. And there's lots of these new sustainable business models that are going to come out of plastic recycling going forwards. Griffin, we work with Business Finland, so we've established a plastic recycling ecosystem in Finland, but it's also got lots of international members. So we're bringing together the technology suppliers, a lot of the brands, the retailers, people with sort of the good innovative business models, a number of universities into this ecosystem, so we can learn and bounce ideas off each other and hopefully ultimately stimulate projects, because we need to develop new methods to sort of get value from this plastic waste. And it gives access to the latest knowledge, research and thinking. And we've also developed a joint venture called Finloop to deliver extended producer responsibility services. I'll just talk about that finally on my last slide. So we're helping companies close that circular loop in plastics. So finally, Finloop. As I say, it's delivering on this extended producer responsibility, so that obligation of companies to take care of their waste and track it and monitor it and report on it. So it's for the Finnish market. It's a 50-50 joint venture owned by Griffin and Reclay Group. So Reclay Group is a German headquartered large multinational, 400 million euro turnover. They operate in Germany, Austria, Slovakia, France, and Canada. I think I've got those right. So currently we're providing consultancy and reporting services for Finnish companies exporting into the EU, but also for international companies importing into Finland. And through the partner organizations, we can make introductions to those other countries as well. So really excited about Finloop, and that's step one. Step two will be the sorting plants and the recycling plants once we're working with these brands and we've got all the data around those material flows. So a couple of points on the environmental impact. I think it's very important. Griffin, we're working towards the Sustainable Development Goals from the UN, and you can see there we've just mapped our activities against those goals. And obviously, I think we all were really excited with COP26 in Glasgow at the end of last year, and sort of the pledges that were being made. And I've just repeated there, just above the goals, that our Emirates RDF plant in the Emirates, that will reduce 250,000 tonnes of CO2 yearly. So we're really excited about sort of that impact. Okay, I think obviously sort of time is getting on. That's probably enough from me at the moment, Tamar. There were just some other slides on the team and where we operate and such like, but I think that's probably sort of enough to wrap up for now. Of giving you the key points on fuel from waste and plastic recycling. Thank you.
Çok teşekkürler Stuart. Gerçekten bu kısa sürede
Thank you very much, Stuart. You could explain all three main components of your factory in such a short amount of time, and especially in terms of circularity and fighting against climate change. You have taken substantial steps, and within the framework in the COP26, it is important to underline that carbon-related decisions drafted by EU focus on starting in 2023 with one sector, which is the cement sector. And in cement sector, RDF's usage or using other alternative fuels usage, such as LC3, is especially important. And the UAE example and its implementation you explained with the annual goal of 250,000 tons of CO emissions cut is really important in this regard. And now I wish to give you a question from a listener. Could you talk about RDF and his question?
Or alternative to fuel oil. RDF'i nasıl tanımlayabilirsiniz? Düşük karbonlu bir ürün müdür? Yoksa full oil'ün bir alternatif olarak kullanılabilir mi? Yani atıktan enerji kullanımını biraz daha nasıl tanımlayabiliriz diye sözü size bırakıyorum.
And now I give the word to you.
Sorry, the translation sort of cut off when the question was being asked. Sorry, could you just repeat it quickly?
Tabii soruyu bir daha tekrarlayayım.
I'll repeat the question, and in fact, I'll also post you the question in the chat.
Okay.
What is RDF? Simply put, can you explain it, especially in terms of low carbon side of things, or is it just an alternative for fuelage?
Yeah, so RDF, refuse-derived fuel, it's you basically take in the municipal waste or the commercial industrial waste. You then strip out all of the recyclable elements, so the glass, the metals. Increasingly in the future, more and more of the plastics will be stripped out, and then you basically bind the material together, shred it up, and then that is supplied to the cement plants, normally of the the waste that comes in, 80 to 90% of it can be used within the RDF. So the amount that goes to landfill is down at sort of 10%. But it's basically a material that can be burnt it's not only mixed with the coal, but you can, within Western Europe now, a lot of the cement plants are putting in sort of percentages of RDF well above 50%. In the UAE, we're just starting at 10% because the cement plants have never used it before. But there's massive opportunities to sort of increase its use going forward. Does that answer the question? Okay.
Çok teşekkürler Stuart.
Thank you very much, Stuart.
Great.
And you mentioned, to put it in Turkish, we say reuse waste as fuel by changing it and adapting it into a different shape as a method you just described. And also you have talked about the waste hierarchy, and the disposal of it was a part, and the spot you've shown on your presentation, especially this prevent burial of waste or not to burn them directly in the loop he just showed was the diagram that is in relation with his answer. And on it again, he mentioned gaining energy from waste, and RDF here is a potential solution presented. And some cement companies in Turkey, we know that they use such a similar system. In fact, I believe this exact same system, which is on the rise in popularity. We have 10 minutes, so I wish to make it a quick round. And if we have the time again, we'll continue with more questions. We have a question for Miss Aslı, and I'll ask her the question. And the US Qatar company, which is led with the Borusan, the remat manufacturing parts company, I know is developed in this system, updated into this system. Is Borusan capable of expanding it, and what they have earned? And Borusan itself, does it motivate their own sub-branches in similar manner? Of course, in terms of circular economy, this is one of the most value that gets added, and it is not something a small evaluation or a quick gain. It became the nucleus of our company approach because the traditional distribution model has to be abandoned, and we were an organization that was based on growing by selling. But this new approach to things is our new method of growth. We no longer just buy or sell, but now provide services for devices in loop and provide solutions and keep them running for longer as a business model. So when we're setting all of these as a strategical approach, we have this approach to keep machines more in the system. For Caterpillar, in 2019, their sustainability goals was important for us too. And their goals and their message also have similar worries, such as, of course, their approach is different in this regard. They've set the year 2019, for example, and they've said that 100% of their products would be based on recycled and reutilization of wasted goods and resources, lessening emissions, and having an improved loop in the material, and have sustainability in the center. And we, of course, all talk about a business ecosystem, and each step has to support the step that comes after. Caterpillar and the remanufacturing they talk about focus on the sales of new things they produce. So this effort starts actually in 2018, and they wish to grow by 25% minimum by 2019 by implementing this plan. And in our own goals, we have this much or slightly more in percentages in growth with a similar approach. And how can this be interpreted to our everyday lives? This Bir Daha brand we talked about is one such incentive we give, which we follow in closely, where the performance and the growth potential of companies are evaluated and measured in accordance with the motivation, and with high motivation and a clear-cut plan set for the future. This model, it has to be in our nucleus, in our core, and the post-sale machinery maintenance and length of their operational life increasing is our objective. And of course, the regain of machinery by not selling new machines but maintaining machines is a method to keep customers and keep continuing to loop and not letting them go and look out for other machines, for example. Of course, we're talking about pieces that are in tons when it comes to weight. So their maintenance and their recycle or reutilization is as important and impactful for us, such as keeping track and using AI technology for maintenance. We have many implementations in place, and preventing permanent damage and having cheaper maintenance is some of our vision's reflection on customer services. And also for business maintenance, it's not just retail stores. We also keep contact directly with the customer and offer solutions, which leads our inspiration forward. And that's how we wish to move. It is not just in Turkey alone. This system is included in countries we are also involved in or settled in with different industries and different types of machinery. I can say that future thinking investment done or future thinking plans drafted, we have a goal set, and we know that the system we talked about is as important and as working, and we can see its reflection on each step we take as if it's a spider web. And in parallel to our approach and holding and distribution and retail, we have a joint motivation. And in this joint motivation, we have joint goals, and we all get inspired by this system in its entirety. Thank you for your comprehensive answer. And we have come to the last 3 minutes of our panel. If anyone wishes to talk or add something for the last 3 minutes, I can gladly give the word. If not, we can just close our panel. And oh, we have a last minute question towards Mr. Mustafa. Oh, he also wanted the word. He can give his answer and have a closing word for us, especially in terms of sustainability work and patents. Where can we start or follow the data is a question to Mr. Mustafa. Thank you. Right now, these data you can follow if you're not using paid databases is difficult. But of course, with individual investigations for Turkish patents, you can look at databases for Turkish Patent Agency or free databases such as the European Patent Center databases. You can analyze things thoroughly by yourself, and there are easily accessible platforms for accessing green technology related patents, which we will be publishing very shortly in the future. Of course, we talk about patents, this and that, but in terms of adapting into green technologies, companies and startups cooperation has to increase, especially in Turkey. Last week, we've seen investment for bioplastics made from molded bread and companies working in this regard. There was a Vestel, a company which made tires from olives waste, and the Green Row project with Deküp, we developed a Taider, and this project is one such adaptation acceleration project and push towards a green innovation in businesses and match them with appropriate startup companies and hopefully contribute to this ecosystem. I wish to thank everyone for being here. And we have come to end of our panel. So I wish to thank all of our panelists for their presentations and examples and implementations alike. And to everyone that is watching us, once again, I wish to thank you for being here. And we wish to recommend that for sustainable development, we are in the last decade and we've spent 2 years already as we head towards 2023. And last 7, 8 years will be more about actions and not words. We talked about today what is being done currently on the field and what solutions are provided. As Mustafa said, cooperation and cooperation's importance is apparent. And I believe green technologies will get popular ever much more. And I give the word to Ms. Banu.
Sayın Atabarut, Sayın
Mr.
Selenk, Sayın
Ataborut,
Çakır, Sayın
Selenk,
Campbell ve
Çakır,
Sayın
Campbell,
Kayvonen,
and
değerli konuklarımıza
Kayuvonen,
çok teşekkür ediyorum.
thank you for your valuable
Bu
contributions to our
organik yaşam
panel.
oturumuna
Now
geçeceğiz.
we
Yapı
will head
saatlerimiz
towards to the last panel of the day. We have a
burada
30-minute break,
vereceğiz.
and
Görüşmek
our
üzere.
last panel will be about the private sector. Thank you.